Cleveland Browns, Houston Texans, NFL Week 13. But that's not what we're talking about today, really. Yes, it's a preview for this game, but the big story, Deshaun Watson making his debut as a Cleveland Browns and making his return, first time playing since the final week of the 2020 season. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Matthew Peterson here, guiding you guys through this matchup and some things to watch for, some injury news, all that stuff. But there's the big elephant in the room, right? It is Deshaun Watson. Honestly, probably the most anticipated game for Browns fans since I'm thinking of other big games like the playoff game against Pittsburgh a few years ago, 1999, right? Coming back from, Art Modell, FU. But you get the gist of Browns fans have been waiting so long to find their franchise quarterback. I mean, since the team returned in 99, they've had 33 different starting quarterbacks? That is insane to think about. And hopefully Deshaun Watson is the starting quarterback for the next 10 plus seasons, and we never have to go through the long cycle of a QB for a Browns fan. But we've got some notable injuries to touch on first, and then we're going to jump into what to expect with Deshaun Watson. But David Njoku, who, remember, he had that high ankle sprain he worked his way back from, well, a knee injury popped up, so monitor that throughout the week. Plus, Myles Garrett suffered a shoulder arm injury in the win over Tampa. Doesn't appear to be uber serious, but that is definitely something to watch for as we get closer to Sunday. Greg Newsome with the concussion has missed the last 2 games. Hopefully he can come back and play this week. It's not like he is desperately needed against this Texans wide receiver core, and also Martin Emerson was great in his spot at CB2 on Sunday. And then for the Texans, they're relatively healthy. Derek Stingley, one of their top picks in last year's draft, he is dealing with a hamstring injury. That caused him to miss last week's game, the loss against Miami. So keep an eye on that one moving forward. But the Watson effect, right? Probably what we're all thinking, we're all wondering, what does Deshaun Watson bring to this team, right? How does Deshaun Watson elevate this team? And there's lots of things and tape you can look at from his time in Houston and what the Browns are doing right now and trying to mesh it together and go, well, if you take what Watson did in 2020 and add it to what the Browns are doing this year, you're going to get this. The truth is, we have no idea, right? It's a whole new offense for him. For Kevin Stefanski, it's a whole new quarterback and a very different quarterback than what he's had so far in Cleveland, from Baker to Keenum to Jacoby Brissett. But we're going to find somewhere in the middle of what Deshaun Watson makes this offense look like. I've got a couple things to watch for. One, just across the board, I think you're going to see a lot more of shotgun formations. When Deshaun Watson was in Houston, that is primarily what they did. Now, Browns fans have seen under Kevin Stefanski, you get a lot of QB under center play action looks. I don't think the play action is going away. No, you're going to see a lot of it too, especially with the deep shot really opening up. But expect a lot of shotgun formations. You're not going to see the 2 tight end set jumbo formations in the middle of the field so much. You're also going to see a lot of RPOs. Oh, and one more thing, RPOs. You're going to see a ton of run-pass options. In fact, when Kevin Stefanski and the Browns flew down to Houston before trading for Watson, and Stefanski and Watson sat with an iPad looking at film for an hour, Watson was watching Stefanski cut up film and go, listen, here's what you've been doing in Houston. Here's what I think you can do in our offense in Cleveland. And with Nick Chubb and with Kareem Hunt, you're going to go through the roof. And remember, Watson's last year in Houston in 2020 wasn't a very memorable year. They only won 4 games. Would have helped if he had a guy named DeAndre Hopkins still on the team and not David Johnson at running back. With Nick Chubb, you can fully expect those numbers to go through the roof. I do want to pump the brakes, for myself included, but all of us here. Deshaun Watson has missed 29 weeks of football. Not calendar weeks, but game weeks, okay? From the last time he played, which was week 17 of 2020, missing all of 2021, and the first 12 weeks of this season. So don't expect him to come out and throw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. He has not been hit, for example, in a long time. It's tough to come back in the NFL after missing that much time, It's great that it's coming against the Texans. I know there's an emotional element, a revenge aspect for the Houston Texans, kind of like what we saw with Seattle and Denver in week 1. But the Texans, they're downright awful. I mean, they are really bad. Like, Canadian Football League, Toronto Argonauts might beat them kind of bad. I want to go back to this point, though, about the RPOs. So, Deshaun Watson in his career, in terms of just running out of the run-pass option set, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, completion percentage of 67.7. This is where he thrives. And this is where the Browns will make defenses lose sleep. Because how do you defend Nick Chubb and their power run game, Deshaun Watson's crazy great accuracy and awesome arm talent? Those two combined make it a nightmare for opposing defenses. I also saw this little snippet from The Athletic with Zach Jackson, who does a great job of covering the Browns. I wanted to share it with you guys. I still think the Browns offense should and will mostly run through Chubb. And the most notable difference we'll see immediately is a faster, more dangerous quarterback keeping the ball on play-action fakes. With 1 or 2 formational exceptions, I can't imagine we're going to see the Browns be tremendously different in their 12th game than they've been in their first 11. I think Zach raises an excellent point of they're not going to unveil a brand new offense in December. That's just not how it's going to be. I think we're going to see a lot of plays calls, same for Jacoby Brissett, but with Deshaun Watson, he's going to do a much better job of extending plays, right? Taking some of the, maybe not broken plays, but fractured plays and resurrecting them and finding your deep receiver who's streaking down the sideline. And with his arm talent and his legs, he can make that kind of play. It's also a good reminder of Deshaun Watson in 2020, when he, led the NFL in passing, was fantastic. Completion percentage over 70%. Yards nearly 5,000. Touchdowns 33. Interceptions 7. There was no DeAndre Hopkins on that team, guys. I mean, these are incredible numbers to look at. Now, the Browns receiving core isn't made up of all pros across the board. Amari Cooper's been awesome. We know this. Donovan Peoples-Jones is, rising at the right time. But outside of those two, it's been suspect at best, I think. David Bell has come along the last couple of weeks. Anthony Schwartz, give him a round of applause, scored a touchdown last week. But hopefully Watson can make those two guys into more of notable names and not just good for a play here or there. Now, what is your excitement level at for Deshaun Watson's debut for the Browns? Right? Browns fans, we've been waiting for so long for consistent play at quarterback and not a revolving door. And hopefully Watson will be that. We have seen some quarterbacks make changes this offseason in their location, like Carson Wentz, Baker, Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan. They've all been failures at their new homes. I don't think the trend will continue for Deshaun Watson. He's a lot younger than those guys, for one thing, and he's also a lot more talented than them. I also want to go back to something we talked about a few days ago in the show. Look at this film really quickly here. This was from the Browns-Bills game 2 weeks ago. Look at Buffalo. Stacking the box, making life incredibly difficult for the offensive line to get any kind of traction. With Deshaun Watson in the game, they have to respect his arm, and they have to back off a little bit. And that's going to make things a lot easier for Nick Chubb in the ground game, which has been beaten up the last couple of weeks because teams, like in the Dolphins game, for example, are blitzing. Look at those 3 linebackers. They all went onto the line of scrimmage at the snap, essentially. Because they know we can blitz and stop the run, and if it is a pass, well, no offense to Jacoby Brissett, we're not all that afraid of leaving him with a one-on-one matchup on the outside. With Deshaun Watson, you are. Now, in terms of actual preview for Browns Texans, taking a look at Houston really quickly and some of their stats this year, if you have not watched them much this year, that's perfectly fine. They're downright awful, like I said. Points per game, 15.8, that's 31st in the league. They're so lucky that the Denver Broncos exist this year. Otherwise, they would be exposed for having one of the worst offenses historically in the NFL. But thank goodness for Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson only averaging 14 points per game. Points allowed, they are better than the Browns, believe it or not. I mean, Lovie Smith, say what you will about the guy. He's probably not what they envisioned as their head coach this year. He's going to have that defense play hard. That's just what Lovie does. 23.6 points per game. That's better than Cleveland. Total yards, dead last. Passing yards, 27th. Rushing yards, 29th. The Houston Texans they're not racing for the first pick in the draft. They've got it. They've got the first pick, and depending on where the Browns finish, they might have a good one too. But they are atrocious this year. Let's get that straight right now. Now, before we get further into today's show, I want to get to 15,100 subscribers by kickoff on Sunday. 38 subs to go. If you have not subscribed and you're looking for a Browns YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so. Or if you just want to help a fellow Brownie out who's getting you guys daily Cleveland Browns content, consider subscribing to the channel. As for quarterback for Houston, looking like it's going to be Kyle Allen. The Texans, Mills Mafia, rest in peace. They bench Davis Mills leading into Week 12. Turned it over to Kyle Allen, who went for a meager 215 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. I did find this quote from the Houston Chronicle reporter that covers the team, Brooks. I'm going to call him Kepka because it looks close enough to me. Kyle Allen asked what he'd say to his old Texas A&M teammate Myles Garrett. Be nice to me. I don't think that's going to be enough to get Myles Garrett, who's looking for a sack in 3 straight games, off of your back. Because Garrett in this defense, it's knock on wood, because I felt like that after the Bengals game, and there was a huge letdown of the Dolphins game the next time out. But 10 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles. And we're talking about Myles Garrett, who, by the way, I think sometimes we forgot, he had a pretty major car accident 2 months ago. Not even. And he's out there throwing down Tom Brady in overtime to help secure the win. So Myles Garrett, he's going to be gunning for Kyle Allen. The Aggie love right there, it's probably going to stop on Sunday. All right, we got more preview stuff to get to in just a moment. But if you have not visited BetUS, please go ahead and do so. That is our proud sportsbook partner here at Chat Sports. When you get started at chatsports.com/bet, use promo code Browns125. You get hooked up with a 125% deposit bonus. A common analogy you hear within the walls of Chat Sports is let's say you ordered a pizza. Well, you're also going to get another free pizza and a big slice on top of that. There is no other sportsbook out there that's giving you that awesome of a deposit bonus. So check them out today. All right, players to watch for Houston. It's a very short list. Dameon Pierce has been awesome for them this year. He has probably been the best rookie running back, unless I'm Kenneth Walker in Seattle. He's also really good. But regardless, Pierce, he's really all they got. I like Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks, of course, but Dameon Pierce this year, 788 yards, 3 touchdowns. If you have him in fantasy, you know that he is good for 90 to 100 yards a game, and that's about it. I'm grasping for straws, really, to find something that makes you even optimistic for the Texans about going into this game. Now, I want to move on to another segment of today's show, and that is whose stock will rise with Deshaun Watson. Outside of just saying all the above, everyone, I have identified 4 players who I think may get a bigger bump than everyone else. Because, of course, Amari Cooper is going to do better with Deshaun Watson than Jacoby Brissett. Knock on wood. But here are 4 guys I think are the big winners. One is Anthony Schwartz. He desperately needs a quarterback to help carry him through to next year. Because right now, I don't think he is a lock at all to make the 2023 roster. He is very much on the bubble. So he needs elite quarterback play to help boost his stats a little bit. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been starting to become more of a possession receiver, right? More than just a big play guy once or twice a game. He's being looked at over the middle of the field. He's got sticky hands. And with Deshaun Watson, he can become much more of a legit wide receiver too, and not so much of a big play once in a while. Although the last couple of weeks, he has kind of gone away from that and more of your routine, hey, I can run any route, I can do anything you need. Kareem Hunt, he's been dying to get Deshaun Watson onto the field because Deshaun Watson in shotgun with Kareem Hunt next to him, those two are going to form a great duo. So I fully expect that to be something we see a lot more of. And then Nick Chubb, like I talked about earlier. The RPO, not only with Hunt, but play action with Chubb. Think about it as a defense. Really, just this isn't even hardcore X's and O's. Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb, you do play action, you have to respect Nick Chubb. But at the same time, how do you counter with, well, if Deshaun pulls it back and he looks deep, what is our game plan, right? How do you combine, as a defense, how do you schematically prepare for stopping Nick Chubb while not fully selling out on the run and being burned on the pass? All right, so those are my big winners here. Before I let you guys go, predict the score for me. Browns, Texans. I'll give you my score prediction in just a second, but get in the comment section right now. Let me know. We haven't done this in a while, but this game I think calls for it. My score prediction, I'm going to go Browns 31, Texans 20. So that is my score prediction. Cleveland Browns win it 31-20. I think the Browns are going to take care of business, so that is my score prediction right there. We'll get it on screen for you guys. Browns 31-20 over the Houston Texans. I just think the Texans might put up a little bit of a fight because of that, hey, big game element, Deshaun Watson's coming back, get on your feet, make some extra noise type of atmosphere. And we've seen some homecomings not go well for quarterbacks this year, but the Texans are just too bad, in my opinion, to have any chance of beating the Browns, even if Deshaun Watson is a bit rusty in his first game back.